Hey everyone, this is the LEGO Creator 3-in-1 Medieval Castle set, and I bought 3 of these for this video. So I'm going to be showing you this, the full version that uses all of the official pieces in the set, and then I'm also going to be showing you separately each of the alternate official builds, which each use far fewer of the pieces, and then I'm going to put them all together and see what it looks like as a combined thing, a very expensive combined thing with a lot of pieces left over. First up, the big main build, which is mostly monolithic with just a couple of small side builds. One of them is related, and this, the dragon wyvern thing, we'll look at separately later. When the first full official pictures of this set first hit the internet, I thought that the build was only going to give you 3 walls with an open space around the back where you'd have to kind of imagine that there was more to the castle grounds. But I was very wrong about that. Thankfully, the crenellated battlements do continue all the way around, including at the rear itself, so you can close this up to create truly a fully enclosed castle. This also can be opened up, however, as you will start to see some hinges, like right here, there's a hinge, and I'll open this up and show you what the alternate version looks like, or the alternate display of this looks like in just a moment. I wanted to give you first an idea of the entire thing from all angles. So if I separate it right there and turn this around, bring this on around, there we go. This setup trades depth for width and makes for a rather different looking display that obviously is going to fit into a different size and shape of space. You can see that over here on this side, there's the absolute minimum depth of the whole thing. The center section sticks out just a little bit farther to the front, but over on the other side, back over there, there is still quite a lot of depth. So this doesn't fold out maximally. You know, you've still got a bit of rampart here, in addition to this section of the castle sticking out towards the rear. So it's not able to be quite as shallow for display on a thin shelf as it may look like just up front. Now, since I am looking at this from the back, I might as well show you the interior/rear details, of which there aren't all that many. So this is the large tower. There's no way for figures to get up there, but you can pose at least a few figures in this space on Overwatch duty. And then the battlements along here do have ample space to pose figures, so a random figure for the sake of scale would look like so. I appreciate that. The fact that they have the width of 3 for the walkway up here is excellent and so much better than most classic castles, which often had just 1 or 2 studs of space up here. This is very useful by comparison. And down below, that's just a small jail cell in the corner that can be opened up there. There's also a different way to get to it. There's just a single little spot for the poor old skeleton to sit, and a gold mug or grail that the person has held onto for all of this time. A little market stall here with just a baguette and some fresh fruit, probably much nicer stuff than they would have had realistically during these times, especially just out there for anybody to pick up. No detail here, no detail here, no detail here. You come up to the top, you got a torch on either side, a flag on either side, and then this is like a Black Falcon castle. So there's a large Black Falcon brick build, which is absolutely appropriate. The other side of the tower of the gatehouse here has nothing. This is the bathroom. So there's another unrealistic detail there with a roll of toilet paper, but slightly better and more period appropriate is the hole in the floor. On the other side, on the little section of the castle that sticks off to the side, it's just a floor, or a hole rather, to the outside. So that would dump directly into the moat. And then there's nothing going on down here, but I did skip this portion right here of the gatehouse. This is actually pretty good because on the outside for us to use, there's a nice little winch, and there's a ratcheted mechanism in the center which allows you to lower the drawbridge instantaneously by just flicking this up. You can only do it from the back, but just flick that up and down goes the bridge. It's convenient and is built nicely enough. Continuing our tour over to this side, there is a single staircase to allow you to get up to the second level that has a little brick-built mouse on it, and also a cheese wedge piece, as we call them, using that to represent an actual cheese wedge here. Underneath the stairway, some treasure to protect. You always want to have that. There are 2 molded metallic gold or pearl gold ingots in there, and then a pair of gems. Sorry, that ingot is upside down right now. And then off to the side here is the armor, which is kind of underneath the overhang here. Have a set of armor there, or most of a set of armor, and then behind this post is a forge, and there are a couple of trans red grill pieces to represent the heated coals inside, and there are also a couple of gold colored clip pieces, so you can put a sword across that to pretend to be heating it up. And once you have that heated up, you can bring it over to the anvil, and there's a hammer which is actuated by the water wheel outside. You can actually get that going to where it will do a lot of the work. So it's essentially a power hammer for you, which is pretty nice, but we'll look at that in just a second from the outside. This is probably the Lord's residence, if not the king. I would consider this to not be a king level of a castle, like a smaller castle, which is, I mean, for the size of the place, I guess it's fairly deluxe. And you got the yellow color, also just a regular door. It's pretty nicely finished up for something of its era. Up top, full roof over all of that, chimney stack, and this could either represent a weather vane or well, what else would that be? What else would that be? Could be just a bird on top of what exactly? I don't know. A decoration of some sort? What else would that be? I think it's supposed to be a weather vane. You can open up these shutters here, and then down beneath that, they've got a little target practice spot for an archer who may or may not be in the set. We will see later when looking at the figures. A couple of hens down here and a rooster. Those are built up nicely. They look very good to me and very appropriate. We use a small number of pieces, but it's always nice to put things together. And around the other side, this is the water wheel. So it's hooked up very simply to the inside. Runs very, very smoothly to run that power hammer, and just seems right to me. I also have a little suggestion of the water itself being disturbed, and here's the rest of the detail on the outside. Now you notice that I'm moving this section around, this whole segment, suddenly by itself because I've detached it from back here. So they've got sort of a little modular system going on here where you can detach from here and then use this in different ways. Similarly, on the opposite side, this can be detached right here. And that just gives you more options for how to put all of this together. So let me return to the main section with the two tall towers and the gatehouse and look at the exterior detail. So around the base, you can continue to see more suggestions of the moat here, although that may actually be a river because after all, this would probably be from the same body of water and that needs to be moving on a regular basis. But, they've kind of suggested that things are very damp down here with some of the colors used. Got some vines growing up, although those look like they may have died. But the detailing on the outside here is definitely nicer than it needs to be. There's a lot more texture than there needs to be. Machicolations up top that actually have the holes, so you could pretend that somebody would be able to throw something through there or fire some arrows through there. This is very nicely done. The arrow slit is appropriately shaped with the cheese wedges facing towards the inside. That is pretty accurate, actually. Nice banners that you actually build up. You don't use stickers or even large prints there. A couple of large torches outside. This is a nice space. It's not wide enough to have a lot of figures going through at the same time, but it does look nice. This is a regular minifig compatible shield, so you could just pop that off if you wanted to and use it with a minifigure. This is the actual gatehouse space proper here, and this doesn't really do anything. Technically, you can lift that up, but it doesn't give you any more access. You have all your access from around the other side anyway. The other banner is done pretty much the same way. And then over on this side, things get just a little bit more dry. So the olive green and the dark green, those areas are just a little bit shorter. And then there's this one nice little tree with a couple of small mushrooms. And this just uses up some of the additional pieces. It's not the most beautiful thing or anything, but you put well, first of all, you can have somebody sneaking up there, or you could put one of the birds up here. But that's just it, finishing up this side. And here's the observation or watch tower as it looks from the outside. Once again, little arrow slit right there, crenellations across the top, more detail than you need on the outside. And like I said, things get a little bit more dry as we move towards the right or towards the rear, depending upon how you have this displayed. So this is looking like, drier land. Also, remember that the tower has the jail cell inside of it, and its detailing is pretty consistent all the way around. But there's an additional thing you can do with the jail cell. You can break out over here. So it's unfortunate that the skeleton didn't recognize that when it was still a regular person who maybe had some flesh on those bones. But yeah, this is always a possibility. So, Lego likes to do that, or you can just use that for an alternate scenario for somebody to break out before they become a skeleton, or keep the dark comedy in there. Saviors finally come along and they find this and they break it open and they're too late. Oops. Using the modular connection system, if you wanted to, you could do this. So it opens in just one place rather than two. So you keep more of the structure together over here if that works a little bit better for how you want to either play with this or display it. But then that leaves this very, very large open area. But that does just kind of start to suggest some of the possibilities for how you could fill things in over here. Speaking of fill, here's something to use up a handful of additional pieces. The small well with a bucket in it and a frog off to the side. That's all there is to this one, but a lot more interesting is this. It's just a little built-up green dragon, technically a wyvern, which is technically a type of dragon, making it hyper annoying and undesirable when people get ridiculously particular about those made-up things that never actually existed in real life. But this is nice. A little reference to a number of dragons that have come out in the creator line in the past over the course of many years. For the number of pieces used here, for the fact that it's all genuine Lego building techniques with nothing super specialized used here. This is really nice. This is really well done. And I mean, you can flap those wings, move them forward and back. You've got the legs that have a lot of mobility, along with the ankles there and the tail being able to move around with the ball joint at the base of it. A couple additional parts there. I mean, there's a lot you can do with this for how small it is. And I find it to be very, very charming. This easily could be sold as a set just by itself. The nostrils look really nice. The fact that you can still open the mouth as small as it is. You can see the eyes there. This is really, really good. A very, very nice side build. The knights here are black falcons that are completely compatible with the ones introduced in the medieval blacksmith shop set, which is very nice to see. It's too bad that this guy didn't get a quiver to go with his bow. That's definitely an omission here. Anybody who wants to complain about the fact that there is a figure with a female head on it, but isn't going to complain at least 100 times as much about the historical inaccuracy of the existence of a freaking green dragon in this set, needs to just go away. Find another channel to watch. I'm not interested in any of that madness. Seriously. This dude has a torso piece from the Pirates of Barracuda Bay set, which is interesting. I mean, if you think about it too much, you can see that, well, that's a pirate. That's a pirate. That person doesn't belong in medieval times, but why not? I personally think that's a perfectly fine looking, just regular person to include in this, kind of like a citizen figure. Not everybody needs to be a warrior in these, but of course you can pop and swap the pieces all you want. And to that end, and on that topic, I'm very glad that this design of torso piece, which is shared between these two, is gender neutral. So if you want to turn this into a male character, you can. If you want to turn this into a female character, you can. You can even swap out skin tones if you want to use fleshies for them or anything. Like, it's super easy to use these and mask them and create your own custom armies that use these designs. Finally, with the full castle built, this is what you're left with for spares. By comparison, this selection of leftover pieces is just out of control. Look at how many parts are here that can be used to create more castle stuff in the vein of what we've just been seeing. These are the leftovers from just one of the alternate builds. Specifically this one. Once again, there are two side builds, but both of them are substantial. We'll look at those separately. And once again, a modular connection system is used so that this can be put together with the main castle or the other alternate build I'll show you in a few minutes, or both. And also there are hinges, so once again you can change the shape of this. You can see that this is right now folded up as far as it will go with the hinges that are there. This is just limited right there, but you can also bring this together to make it into more of a continuous wall if you just want to have that length or that width, like so. These walls are all completely compatible across the different builds, so the height is the same, the styling is the same, and this is really intended for expansion without any modification. The windmill here is nice, including the round section in the center, and I like how these vanes are built up without any super specialized pieces. You can also spin this up to move some air. You can really feel the air moving there, or if you have a nice strong fan, or if you just really blow on this quite hard, you can make it spin naturally. And then over here is a little food stall. So this has in it an apple, and then I think that's supposed to be a piece of firewood as well for firing up the stove to the side. Since we don't have a forge this time around, they use those parts for the stove, which makes sense. Make yourself a little sandwich over here, or have this person make you a sandwich. You've got salt and pepper. The piece of cheese is back there, and a baguette ready to be sliced up. You can also get yourself some stuff to drink. I'm sure that would definitely be a non-alcoholic beverage that's served up back there for sure. This archway lets some water go through, so that would probably be part of the same water system that we saw on the main build. It's nice that they have one little shield insert piece used for just a little extra decoration to change things up slightly. Sorry about these pieces not quite perfectly being lined up, but this is a different way to build up a banner with the red and the white. I appreciate how it's asymmetrical, and once again uses one of the few printed pieces in the set to good effect. And here's just another tower with the arrow slit there, and up top you've got plenty of space to put a figure there, or multiple figures, including around the sides. Once again, matulations to allow things to be dropped or shot down, and those do, once again, have the compatible holes, so you can actually have, or at least actually imagine something going through there projectile-wise. There's just a single candle on the inside, and this, once again, has a jail cell. Lego loves their jail cells, don't they? Even on stuff that's not police-related. So that's just that. So, you'll have plenty of places to keep your prisoners if you do win a war, or at least a battle around here. Just a basic, sorry about hitting that, just a basic torch there. But on the other side, different stairs, a little bit more blocky, but still giving you access to the upper level, which once again is 3 studs deep. And then there's no other real detail along here. They're just kind of using the pieces necessary for the wall and for the connections at the end. And that is it. This small windmill house, I don't know the proper term for it, has no detail on the inside of it. Unfortunately, you've just got a space where you can sit back there, I suppose, or maybe those are supposed to represent bags of grain or piles of grain. I don't know. There's a door that you can open, and that's just it for this build. See, it's really simple, It doesn't look particularly that interesting, but again, it is completely compatible with the main thing and does still have those options for how to turn it, so I'll be connecting it to some other stuff pretty soon. I just wanted you to see how this looks just by itself. If you buy one of this set and you want to build an alternate build and you choose this one, this is what you get. This armor stand is one of the side builds, which lets you either buy or rent armor, I suppose, as well as weapons. So they got a couple weapons with clips on the sides. The level of detail here, I think, is perfectly appropriate. This definitely fits in with the other stuff as built in this set. Just a little bit of suggestions of like weeds down at the base seems appropriate to me. I like this center detail here for what it's worth. Nothing to be seen around the back or anything. It's not like they had full-on cash registers. And again, I don't even know if this was trying to sell stuff, but I like the look of it, and it's a worthy side build that definitely fits with this set. The other side build for this, though, is much nicer. This definitely puts the main build's tree to shame. It's so much larger, so much more vibrant. It's very three-dimensional. They brought in pretty much all of the wildlife stuff, including a couple versions. Well, it's the exact same build, but just a couple duplicates of the perching bird that's added here, and some cherries that you could also pick to take back into your market or into your food stall. Last but certainly not least is this large tower build that's very impressive in its stature. This is one of the official alternate builds as well. And with this one, you get a single side build. At first glance, this looks a lot like a lighthouse, although I don't think it's intended to be one. Once again, this is compatible or designed to be compatible with the other builds, so all the styling is very similar. This could be an area that was broken into from the outside, but it also could have blown out from the inside, and I'll show you why that is a possibility if you have an imagination in just a minute. Nice tall banner is built to this one. I don't know why I like the banners so much. I guess because you actually build them custom and they stand out nicely with their colors. A couple gargoyles on the sides here, and then this is the main entrance to some space, to some large space with just one single hinge with just bar and clip on either side. So this doesn't always line up absolutely perfectly, but I'm fine with that. It looks a little bit creaky, but it's a nice looking pair of doors that open up with a very wide walkway. Very, very generous, including this stairway that's very, very wide and generous. Unfortunate, though, it is that there are no studs here to hold on to the feet of minifigures. This is some of your dry-ish land, and once again, some water flows through, suggestion of maybe a lily pad sort of space back there. This I love. I like how it's built up using very, very simple pieces, giving you a little bit of texture of some rock work on the side there that's unfinished, but it also opens in the nicest way. It opens like this. Let me close this door. It opens like this. And then once it's open, it can kind of lean forward a little bit because there's a ball joint that's used mostly for a single axis of motion, just to slide this up. They use a ball joint, the Mixel style ball joint, but then you can lean it out just a little bit. Once again, little dungeon area or jail cell. This is more dungeon-like, I feel, and it's larger as well. Here's one of those connection points to connect to something else, and there's the entrance to the jail cell, the standard entrance, or the intended human entrance, and another connection for more walls to be added. No detail inside of here. A little bit of detail inside of here. Okay. And we have a miniature Drake here, once again, with the historical inaccuracies. Oh no, what are we going to do? It's just a very simple little build, but it's kind of charming. Reminded me, as I put it together, of the Harry Potter Fox buildable old little, well, I guess they've done it a number of times throughout history, but yeah, it's nice to have a suggestion that that's where that lives. And here's the reason I thought the hole in the wall may have been from an explosion, not an implosion, because this is a wizard or alchemist's little workshop. A couple suggestions of potions there with the upside down gems, a crystal, maybe a book, and then off to the side is an observation telescope. So probably like a pseudo-scientist of medieval times is what's being suggested here. I like that, and it opens up so many imaginative possibilities. This is really the wizard's tower to me now. I am surprised that they didn't even try to turn this into a lighthouse, even just to create a beacon, something to make this visible from a distance, to make it seem more magical, a different color or something. I don't know, it's just completely empty up there. That's a little bit of a disappointment. And then the top we've already seen. Meanwhile, just continuing down on this side of it, there is one more window that can be used. It's designed to be used by archers in its shape, and it's also compatible visual design-wise, aesthetically, with other things in the set. A little bit of foliage growing up the side with some vines. And that's it for this main version of this alternate build. Which brings me to the Trebuchet, which is indeed a Trebuchet, in spite of the fact that I was just obliterated by YouTube commenters when the pictures for this set first came out, and I was like, does that look like a Trebuchet? It looks like a Trebuchet. And they're like, no, it's not a Trebuchet, because a Trebuchet doesn't have this design. Trebuchet would have a counterweight. This thing has a massive counterweight that actually has some serious mass to it, and works exactly like a medieval Trebuchet. Now, it's not the type that has a sling at the end, just a bucket there, but I love this thing so much. It's so much fun just to wind it up after building it, to wind it up and then let it go. It looks great. It does work too. It needs maybe a little bit of tuning. I tried it and it fires things fairly close to you, like it fires more down than up and out, but I think a little bit of modification can fix that. But this is, I love this entirely too much, just how it works. And also it looks really good. So the other suggestion with how the hole got in the tower is that this was being used as a siege machine outside, and has made contact with the tower and has opened up that hole to the wizard's workshop there, which is why we don't have a wizard in this set. The wizard has taken flight, after getting knocked around at one time. Doesn't want to deal with that anymore. But yeah. I can't do this enough times. You can put a 1x1 into the bucket and it'll fire it off. And I did misspeak earlier. This doesn't count as another side build here. It's just the little crate with a couple of pieces of ammunition. But there is this, which technically does count as a second side build, I would say. This is intended to be used for the sake of play, real play, because you would try to hit this and knock it off. You might have to hit it a handful of times to get it just right, but you knock the bucket off, which has the little print for the target on it. And yeah, that just gives you something to do with physical play, which I don't mind at all. Incidentally, this version of the build officially has all 3 characters getting suited up for a battle, but that's just a personal choice. To my surprise, the modular connection system does not provide a lot of opportunities to make a nice squared off inner courtyard area, with walls that are all 90 degrees to one another. But this was a combination that I felt looked pretty aesthetically pleasing and has a nice asymmetrical balance to it in terms of where the towers are and everything. So I moved the water wheel to the back. So the main build is mostly here except for the water wheel portion. It's been moved around to the back. And then I've got, obviously, the big tower is the big tower. You can never miss that. And the smaller alternate build is around the back here now. And as I try to move this around, I'm trying to keep it together, but I'll show you what happens when I don't. So everything's very flexible and able to change shape amorphously almost. Feels like an amoeba, and this is changing shape right now, but I'm okay with that because, many castles in olden days were not just rectangles as viewed from above. They weren't like old Lego castles were. So it's actually good to be able to shape things differently and not to be forced into a simple geometric layout. But it would have been nice to have a simple option as well, I think, for folks that just want a maximized castle that looks relatively simple and classic. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here. It definitely feels much better to me overall and more believable and realistic than I thought it would. It's better than I expected. I just thought that the connections would work more easily, more simply, and in a more classic way. And of course, if you want to do a lot better than this, well, take the copious amount of extra pieces and do your own custom additions. There are plenty of straight parts and regular bricks that you can use to add a lot more to this easily. Or you can just go to Rebrickable like most people are doing and just copy somebody else's design that's already done with instructions that are available there. It's much better than leaving a ton of pieces behind if you are going to build or buy multiple of this set and you like what it looks like for the most part. You like the overall aesthetic that's been presented here. I paid $100 each for these sets, and I feel like the value for one, if you're going for the main build here, is okay. It's not super great. It's not fantastic, but it's okay. For the amount of stuff, use up all the pieces. It's pretty nice. I feel like this will age pretty well over time. If you want to build or buy one of these to build one of the alternate builds and that's it, then forget about it. Unless you already know what you're going to do with those extra pieces, it's not a good deal. You leave so many parts on the table or in the bin or in the sorting trays when you build one of those alternates. If you want to build or buy multiple of this set and put multiple of them together and leave all of those leftover pieces again just on the side, again, I don't feel like it's worth it. Even considering the big tower that I personally really like. That version I think is really good. But if you're willing to use those extra pieces, and I strongly recommend doing your own thing. It's a lot more fun to do something custom. But if you don't have the time to do that design work, just go onto Rebrickable or something, look for a 2-in-1 build or even a 3-in-1 build. If you want to do something like that, then I think that you are going to get a good deal. As long as you use up all the pieces, or darn near close to all the pieces, I think you get an acceptable deal with this. And I like all of this, including each of the builds, the alternate builds, better than I originally thought I would. When I first saw pictures of this, I was a little bit disappointed that it didn't seem more like a classic castle. I personally really wanted more simplicity and gray. Kind of boring though, isn't it? This is a lot more interesting with the colors here, and the colors are, from what I understand, fairly realistic. The castles may have been even more colorful than this, but I think this is a pretty nice balance actually. And when I started moving things around and bending it in different ways and combining with the other separate parts, I started to see that they've really got a nice thing from an aesthetic system perspective. I think they've developed something nice that then continues throughout each of the builds. So overall, I'm definitely happy with this and strongly recommend that you use up as many of the pieces as possible. Or if you're just going for the main thing, I think you'll be okay, but you'll probably find yourself wanting to add a little bit of extra detail on the inside. A lot of these interior spaces are rather empty and could use just something, a little something. Not that classic castles that adult fans of Lego bow to had any interior detail or anything close to this, that's for sure. This is way better than classic castle has ever been. But for what it is for today, for a wide range of potential customers in terms of their age ranges and their levels of interest in the hobby, their levels of experience with building, this is a success. Thank you for watching. I hope that this at least provided some information for you or some visuals to help you to make your own decisions, what you think about this and whether you want to buy it or buy multiples or skip entirely. And I'll talk to you again soon.